Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. We want to welcome you to our conversation here tonight. We are here to deliver our participatory budgeting, also known as PB, application workshop. This is the first in our series of 4. Really excited to have you all here. Tonight's really all about you. So we have a high-level presentation that we put together to walk you through the ins and outs of our application process, and then we'll have plenty of time for questions and comments. As I mentioned, this is the first in our series, and so we're recording tonight. We have 3 more scheduled tomorrow and then next week. Each of them will cover the same topics, but you're welcome to come back if you still have questions or want to use that time and space to talk with our grant writing team. So with that, I think we have a small enough group. It'd be great to go around the Zoom room here and just do some quick introductions. So I'll start. My name is Jamila Jordan, and I am the county's equity director. I'll pass it over to my colleague, Manny.
Hello, everybody. Manny Benitez. I'm the administrative associate with the Office of Equity, and I'll pass it over to Gary.
Hey, everybody. Gary Besser. I'm a project manager with the Office of Equity. And how about Erica?
Hi, everyone. My name is Erica McWhorter. I'm one of the grant writers hired by the county to support you all. I'll pass it to Elijah. We can't hear you, Elijah.
Thank you. My name is Elijah Merman. I'm a grant writer based in Santa Cruz, and I'm really excited to be participating and helping out on this project, and I will pass it to Melissa.
Hi, everybody. My name is Melissa James, spelled correctly. And I am another grant writer for the county for this particular project, and I'm based in Sacramento, California. Let's see, over to Shane.
Hello, everybody. I'm Shane Kinlock, and I too am a grant writer. I'm hired by Marin County to provide support to you as you write your grants, and I'm based right next door in Columbia, South Carolina.
And let's kick it over to Daniel.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Daniel Cooper. I'm a grant writer also here to provide support for this grant with Marin County. Happy to be working with all of you, and I'll pass it over to Pal on the list.
Pal, are you with us?
Yes, hello everybody. Thank you for the invite. My name is Paula Madrigal, and I am with Social Justice Collaborative. We have our headquarters in Berkeley, California.
Great. Let's go ahead and go to Sarah.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sarah Hobson. I'm with the West Marin Fund based in Point Reyes Station, and we work particularly to support and work with the Coalition for Equity and Justice in West Marin. Happy to be here. Thank you.
Great,
and
thank you.
Can I pass it on to Amarantha?
Please do.
Thank you.
Let's go to Trish. We'll come back to Amarantha.
Hi, sorry to be blacked out, but I share my kitchen with my husband, and he doesn't want to be seen. I'm a Novato citizen, and I'm just representing myself and informally every park user in Novato. My proposal is dead on arrival, but I wanted to be here anyway and hear what you had to say and express some of my issues about why it is dead on arrival. And I am a senior, and my proposal was for equipment to be installed in public parks in Novato that's ADA compliant, that will help people build muscles. There's outdoor gym equipment available on the market, and one collection of these installed in a park in Sausalito, California. So I could say more, but let me pass it to Kristen.
Hi, I'm Kristen Gardner, and I work with Wise Choices for Girls and Opening the World and some other nonprofits. So I'm helping them out with this process. So just want to learn. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kristen. Let's go to Lori Sanzuma.
Hi, I'm Lori Davis, the Executive Director of Sanzuma. And wow, I didn't know there were so many grant writers assigned to this project. That's super exciting. We just got accepted to round 2 today, so I probably will be contacting one of you.
Great, thanks,
I
Lori.
don't think there's anyone to pass it to. Am I the last person?
You might be. Let's try Amarantha one more time. Amarantha, are you with us?
Hello, everyone. Sorry about that. Yes, I'm in the middle of an event. We just finished with the event. Hi again. My name is Amarantha Silva. I'm a parent leader for Parent Voices California over here in Marin. Happy to learn today with all of you. Thank you. Sorry about that.
No problem. Thanks for joining, everybody. So we want this to be an informal space for us to all learn and ask questions together. So we're going to kick off our presentation and then we'll go from there. All right, so in terms of our agenda today, everyone, we're going to share an overview of what PB is all about. What is participatory budgeting? And so we're going to talk to you a little bit about how we define it and how we are using this process here in Marin County. And then we're going to get into details around the application process. And we have 2 applications, as you know, a stage 1 and a stage 2. And so we want to tell you about each of those and really help you through that process. And then we're going to talk about voting. This is something that a lot of people ask us about. We're not in that phase yet, but we want to let you know what's coming down the pipeline in just a few months. And so we'll talk about the voting process, and then we'll talk about next steps, okay? Just a couple of quick housekeeping notes. I mentioned this meeting is being recorded. We will post it on our website as well. If you need to use closed captioning, or if you'd like to use that feature, you can go to your toolbar and click that CC icon, and then your closed captioning will show up for you. Okay, so just want to make sure everybody has access tonight. So quickly, we wanted to introduce our team. This is the mighty Office of Equity team. It's myself, Jamila, as the Equity Director, my colleague Manny, who's here as our Administrative Services Associate, and our colleague Gary Besser, who's our Strategic Projects Manager. So we represent the Office of Equity. And our mission is really to establish the county as an anti-racist and multicultural workforce. And we're really committed to accountability, community engagement, and transformational change. And community engagement is one that really aligns with our participatory budgeting process. So this is very much in keeping with our mission. So what is PB? What is participatory budgeting? So I'm going to use the phrase, I'm going to say PB from here on out, just for brevity. But what is PB? It's really a democratic process where community members, just like each of you, decide how to spend part of a public budget. And we love it because it gives real people power over real money. So you all are making decisions about how to spend part of a public budget. And this is a phenomenon really that's taking hold across the country and internationally as well. The first PB process was in 1989 in Porto Alegre, Brazil. And from there, it spread to many, many other countries and other communities. And so here in the States, we see communities like Chicago, Greensboro, South Carolina, where Shane is based. We see places like Durham, North Carolina, New York City. We see Grand Rapids, Michigan, for example. We also see neighbors here in California, like Oakland, which has launched a PB process. And then our friends over in Vallejo as well. And they're actually on their 7th PB cycle, believe it or not. This is the first time that we're doing something like this here in Marin County. And so we're learning a lot from the experience of our neighboring communities. We also see a lot of schools and educational institutions like community colleges and universities also using PB to really understand what are the needs and preferences of their staff, their students, and their faculty. So it's really a process that a lot of people are beginning to use. They're becoming more aware of it and using it as a way to amplify community voice in our civic decision-making. So what I want to do now is just share a brief video. I'm going to stop my share, and my colleague Manny, you want to pull it up, Manny, or should I use that one?
I'll pull it up.
Okay.
Okay.
So everyone, we have a video for you. Here we go.
Let everyone can see this? The
Yes,
video?
we can.
Perfect. Okay, here it goes.
Participatory budgeting is basically where constituents get to weigh in on how we spend their tax dollars.
Taking a piece of the city budget and saying to your constituents, you guys get to decide how to spend this part of the money. In many ways, it's like the most direct form of participatory democracy.
Participatory budgeting allows the folks in a community to be more involved in deciding how a city spends part of their budget by actually coming up with ideas for projects that they think will benefit their community, working together to build those ideas into proposals, and then having a big community-wide process where everyone votes on what ideas get implemented. I first heard about participatory budgeting from community activists, and then 4 years later, here we are implementing it in Durham.
We brought participatory budgeting to New York City 8 years ago now, and the last couple of years in New York City, over 100,000 people have voted in PB.
It's been 4 years and we've now gone through the process 3 times, and I think that the experiences that we have with participatory budgeting in St. Louis show that it can really work anywhere. I've used the data that we've gotten from participatory budgeting to guide other funding. So for me, it's a great educational tool to make sure that I really am in touch with the needs of our community.
Not to be crass about it, but it is really good, you know, if you want to do something that your constituents not just like, but also builds their sense that I'm glad I voted for that person because I feel more able to affect change together with my neighbors. That's not an easy thing to do, and PB really delivers that.
Some of the biggest challenges with participatory budgeting is staff capacity and time. The other challenge is money. And so having to overcome some of those barriers in order to just inform people of the process is something that we're still trying to work our way through.
Look, it is a lot of work. I don't want to pretend like it's not. If you already filled up your docket, that is hard. You have to plan to be able to make it a percentage of your staff time and your budget and your own personal time.
So I would say it is a lot of work, but it's not a lot of work for me because we've hired an incredible staff to do our implementation.
The thing about it is, the point of participatory budgeting is really to delegate. It really should not be an elected official led process. It should be an elected official supported process.
Cities are a place where we can build a more equitable and inclusive and responsive democracy, where everyone really has a voice at the table and is able to make their voice heard and advocate for their needs and their community's needs. Participatory budgeting is a great way to put those ideals into action.
It has really increased engagement in our community. And a lot of folks have said, well, you know, we see that our tax money is actually working for us at a local level. It gives us more faith in the system. And so now we come out and we feel a part of the decisions that are being made that impact us every day.
What we've seen in Durham is people getting more and more involved in local politics. And so giving people an exciting and really meaningful way to be involved in their community through participatory budgeting feels even more important right now, because I think people really need a way to continue to be engaged civically in ways that feel hopeful and empowering to them. And our hope is that if people come out and vote in PB, that is the first step on a long road to lifetime political engagement.
All right. So that is an overview of PB in other communities. And thank you, Manny, for playing that for us. I'm curious, any reactions from our community members here to what you just heard in that video?
Well, as a community member with a project that requires public park land donation on which to put this outdoor gym equipment, getting responsiveness from the public officials has not been easy. And I'm wondering if maybe you all contacted local city managers and told them this was in the offing. That is the participatory budgeting money.
Mhm. Yeah, great question, Trish. We're going to get to that a little bit later on, but yes, we did. Lori, I saw you come off mute or come in video here. Any reactions from you to that video?
Yeah, actually, it made me really excited to see all the community members getting involved, because I feel like that's one thing that San Zuma has been lacking since 2014. We really have a difficult time like getting all the community on board with us, even though they love what we do. And I feel like this might be a way for us to really engage and empower the community to have a voice in our program.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you for that.
Sorry, I was on off video because I was eating dinner. I didn't want to eat.
No problem. No worries. We know it's around dinner time, so do what you need to take care of yourself. All right, we're going to come back to our video here, or to our presentation. So I wanted to just share some of our goals here in Marin County for PB. And one, of course, is to improve the county. We feel like this is a great way for community members to identify what they see as the needs and what are their solutions for how to address those needs. We also see it as a way to develop new community leaders. So oftentimes we're in spaces where we see a lot of similar people coming out to conversations and board hearings and things of that nature. And that's great. But we also want to engage new voices, people of different age ranges, people of different ethnicities, people of different income levels, people who speak different languages than English. So this is an opportunity for us to invite some of those individuals into civic dialogue, into civic conversations. We also see it as a way to really promote equitable public spending. So when we think about a public budget, where are resources being invested? Where are they being allocated? And how can we do so in a way that feels way more equity centered than we currently are doing? So those are some of our goals with this process. So we have $2.5 million, everyone, through our PB process. And this money comes from the American Rescue Plan Act, also known as ARPA. And we want to use this money to fund projects that advance equity. And so we're going to prioritize communities that are 70 or below on the Healthy Places Index. And that's basically a data set which allows us to look at different indicators such as health, wealth, well-being, comorbidities, health outcomes, education levels, incarceration rates, things of that nature. And what we found is that communities that score under 70 on that index include Marin City, parts of West Marin, parts of Novato, as well as San Rafael and the Canal, right? So those are the communities that we're going to be prioritizing in this process. However, you can submit a project proposal or an application for anywhere in the county. It could be all of those communities, or it could be somewhere else, right? That's up to you. But we will be prioritizing proposals that come or that serve those communities. So this is our 5-step process, everyone. You may have heard this before. We often show this graphic to really map out the architecture of what our process is all about. And we started off with brainstorming ideas, and I'm going to talk about that in a moment. But we also right now are really very firmly in the develop and refine proposals. And proposals, we're going to use that phrase synonymous with application. So now we're developing and refining applications, okay? And so when we went out to community members, we asked this very question of what would you do with $2.5 million to advance racial equity in Marin County? How would you use $2.5 million to improve your neighborhood, to improve your community? So we went out in many spaces. We went to soccer fields, we went to community centers, we went to senior centers. We were online as well, hosting our own meetings, but also going to other community partner meetings as well, making sure that we were hearing from a broad swath of the community around how would they use this money to advance equity. We also created an online tool for people to share with us what were their ideas for this money. And so we got a tremendous amount of feedback and response from community members about this. And many of you probably submitted ideas as well. So we got hundreds of ideas. Those ideas received thousands and thousands of likes, right, from other community members. And to give you a flavor for some of what we heard, you know, people talked a lot about the need for better transportation, particularly public transportation in parts of rural West Marin. That was one of the big feedback points for that community. In Novato, people also talked about transit. They also mentioned parks. One of their most popular ideas was the Latinx Primaveras celebration. That's in Novato. In the Canal, education and housing were the top categories. People mentioned health centers being a really great way to use this money. In Marin City, we heard a lot about the importance of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, and really using arts and culture to create spaces where people feel safe, they feel seen, and they feel valued. In San Rafael, broadly speaking, people talked a lot about parks and housing. And one of the most popular ideas in that community was training for Black captains in disaster preparedness efforts. So really wanting to localize how we prepare for disaster and climate issues. So that's a flavor for what we heard. I'm going to ask my colleague, Manny, to put in the chat the link to the ideas tool. So if you haven't seen it, everyone, you can click on that tool and it'll take you to all of the ideas. This is just a snapshot of some of them, but you can see all of the ideas that we've gotten so far. And people are still submitting, okay? We're encouraging people to continue to submit these ideas. So that's the first part of PB, was that ideas collection phase. And the next part is around submitting an application to receive grant funding. So I want to talk with you all a little bit about this right now. So we have grants of $10,000 to up to $250,000 available for community members. And a really important thing for everyone to know is that if you want to apply for this money, you either need to be a 501c3 or a 501c6, or you have to have a fiscal sponsor. And so we recognize that for some people, you know, the idea of what is a fiscal sponsor, that could be a little bit confusing for some folks. And so we wanted to take that confusion out of the equation, and we've identified fiscal sponsors here in Marin who can support you in your project. And so Marin Link is one of those organizations, as well as the Center for Volunteer and Nonprofit Leadership. So we have some links on our website that will help connect you to them. And it's just a great way to take out any of that confusion and just make it really easy for you to identify who you might want to partner with. We also, as you all know, have a team of grant writers. Many of them, all of them are here on today's call. And so they're able to provide some assistance to you. We'll talk a little bit about that momentarily. You might be wondering, how are we going to evaluate these proposals? And so really it's based on need. Is there a need for this project in your community? How have you identified that need? Is it quantitative data? Is it qualitative data? Is the project feasible? You know, a lot of people have great ideas, but when it comes to turning it into an actual proposal, an actual project, we're asking you to think about, how are you going to do it? Is it feasible based on your time, based on the amount of money that is available, based on your partnerships? So these are things that we ask you to think about as you develop your application. And the last one is impact. We really want this to be about transforming communities, about advancing equity. So we're asking you to think about, what outcomes will your project yield? What will come from you implementing your project? So that's how we'll be evaluating the proposals. And I'll say a little bit more about that in a moment as well. So we have a stage 1 application, which is very brief. Okay, and I know some of my folks on the call here have already submitted. Kudos to you. It's super easy to submit your stage 1 application. It's very brief. It's mostly multiple choice. And we encourage you to submit early. So that way we can support you in helping to point you in the right direction, helping to connect you with our grant writing team. So the deadline for that, everyone, is May 10th, which is maybe about 2 weeks away, I want to say. And then from there, you can submit at any point up to May 10th. And we're doing the review on a rolling basis. And so we encourage you to submit it, and we'll get back to you fairly quickly with the results. The next application is stage 2. And this one is a little bit more detailed. Okay, this one is requiring you to put together some narrative, to put a budget template together, to produce a project timeline, for you to have locked in your fiscal sponsor if you need that. So this one is a little bit more intensive in terms of what we're asking you to provide. But again, we have some support available to you. And I want to keep hammering home this point that I encourage everyone, if you haven't already been there, to check out our website, pb.marincounty.org. It has everything you might ever want to know about our process and then some. So it's a great way for you to just kind of check it out and see if you can answer some of your questions using that resource. And if not, you can always reach out to us. So in terms of the application materials, everyone, we have our PB rulebook, and this is something that was put together by our team, but also our PB committee. Okay, and that's a group of community members from across Marin County who have been working with us to put this process together. And that rulebook has just really everything you need to know about our process, your eligibility, how we're evaluating applications, the timeline. Tons of really great information is included in that rule book. So we encourage you to check it out. And I see my colleague Manny is putting in a lot of links in the chat for you all. So do check those out when you have a moment. So we have the rule book. We have those 2 applications that I mentioned, stage 1 and 2. We have a budget template available. And then we also have a timeline template, right? And I'm going to go to the website in just a moment and show this to you all. And there's also a ton of other resources for you to check out, okay? And I want to just step over to this other screen here to show you exactly how you can find it. So if you click on that link that Manny has in the chat, pb.marincounty.org, you'll get to this homepage. And you can, see some of this introductory information. And then we talk about these workshops that we're having, which you all are here tonight. So we just wanted to provide these links to how people can log on and get connected. And then this section here is really valuable, everyone. It's the application, what you need to know, okay? So it has a link to our stage 1 application, which you would just click there and it would to that very easy and brief application. And then we also have our stage 2 application here. Okay. And then we have some resources for you. So I mentioned that PB rulebook. You would just simply click here and you'll be taken to the rulebook. We also have the timeline, application tips, and our evaluation criteria. If you're still wondering, how do I find a fiscal sponsor? How do I find a nonprofit partner? You can just click right here and it'll tell you how to connect with Marin Link, for example. And then I mentioned to you that we also have a budget template, right? So for you to complete your budget, you would just click right there. We have a timeline template, which has a ton of great examples for how you can complete that. We also have these other documents here to support you, a partnership letter template and a fiscal sponsor policy and agreement template. And if you scroll down a little bit more, it'll take you right here to grant writer assistance, okay? And you would simply click this link and you'll answer a couple of quick questions, and that'll let our grant writing team know what you need, what type of support you need to be successful. Okay, so I do encourage you all to, if you haven't already, come online, check out our website. It has just a ton of great information for you. All right. So let's keep going here. So we have this document as well, which is in the rule book, and it really walks you through PB, how does it work? So I got a lot of questions from folks when we were getting started. And we said, let's come up with a graphic that's really easy to read, that literally walks you through step by step what our process is all about. And so right now, we're in this phase, everyone. We're right here where you're submitting your applications, okay? So you might be wondering, well, I'm going to put a lot of effort into my application. Who's going to be reviewing it, right? So for your stage 1 application, the Office of Equity is reviewing it. So our team is reviewing it. For stage 2, it'll be both the Office of Equity and our PB committee. And as I mentioned, that committee is made up of about 15 or so individuals from across Marin County. They represent different ages, different ethnicities, different lived experiences. And so they will be supporting us in reviewing the applications. Some of the criteria that we'll use include completeness. How complete is your application? Did you review the questions? Did you answer all the questions? Have you addressed all the parts of the question? We'll also be looking at it for clarity. So is your response, is it clear? Are we able to understand what you're meaning, what you're trying to get at? Is it coherent? Does it completely address the question? And then content. You want to know, again, does it address the question? Does it provide information that is consistent with your other responses in the application? And all of this detail, everybody, is in that PB rulebook that I mentioned to you a moment ago. So that's how we'll be reviewing these applications. And we also have a little bit more detail, but again, this is in the rulebook. So you can see we're looking at the location of your project. Did you define some of the challenges that you might come up against? What's your approach to that project? Who is the project going to be benefiting? Which communities will it be benefiting? Do you have some experience prior to working with those individuals or those communities? Do you have a plan for engaging community members in this process, in your project? Is it accessible to people of different backgrounds, people with disabilities, for example? Is your funding request commensurate with what you need to get the job done? Okay. We don't want you to request $250,000 if it'll only take $25,000. Okay. We really want to spread the money around as much as we can. Then the other one is, have you connected with a fiscal sponsor? You have nonprofit status, things of that nature. Okay. So all of this again is in our PB rulebook, and our grant writing team can also help you with some of that. So just a couple of quick tips, as I mentioned, we have our grant writing team here. They're listening in to any questions and feedback you may have, but we also want you all to really make the most of the time that you have with them. And so we encourage you to do your homework first, do what you can first, right? We don't want you to come to the grant writing meeting and not have done anything, not have any idea about what PB is about, no idea about what project you want to do, who potential partners may be. We want you to do some work first, okay? So that way they can really best support you. The other thing is to complete that intake form. And Manny, I believe, has already put it in the chat, but I'm going to ask him to just put it in one more time. And it's a very brief form. And again, it lets us know what type of support you need from them, okay? The other thing is to come prepared. So we want you to come ready with your questions. What specific questions do you have? Is it number 8 on the application that you're stuck on? Is it the budget portion of the application that you want some support on? We want you to kind of know that ahead of time and come prepared to ask those questions. And then if you have any accessibility needs, let us know in advance so that we can know maybe a Zoom meeting isn't best for you. Maybe a phone call is better. Maybe you prefer email. So that type of thing will be really helpful in order to get you the proper support that you may need. So with that, everybody, I'm going to pause here, okay? And I just want to hear if there are any questions from you. In a moment, we're going to talk about voting. So I'm going to ask you to hold your voting questions till then. But any questions about what we shared so far, the application or anything like that? Sarah.
Yes, thank you. First of all, this is incredibly helpful, and what an incredible resource you all are. Thank you so much. The question that I have is whether it's possible to submit more than one initial application or submit the concept, because we're working with a number of partners, and so we really have like three options. One, there's a really significant work going on here to advance housing agricultural workers and their families, and there's a really significant group of organizations and individuals who represent I would say a significant partnership that includes people with lived experience, people on the committee who are from the agricultural worker community. So that's moving forward. I think it's moving forward in a very constructive way with a lot of attention to DEIJ. And so that could be like a proposal, and there could be something very concrete. Then there's really interesting work being done within the community on early childhood equity, particularly infant and toddler care and development, which is very lacking for many families here. And the work is looking at a family-centered it's a family-centered research which is identifying what is really going to make a difference in families' lives with children aged 0 to 2.9, particularly families of color, families in low-income households. So that's, again, something that is quite well advanced. Many really, a lot of collaboration and a lot of work. It's sort of well underway, but could absolutely benefit. I mean, all of these could benefit from a grant. And then there's a third one, which is about supporting the work of the Coalition for Equity and Justice. So funding for that could be really, for each of them, could be incredibly helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And a certain amount of work needs to be done to really identify, what would be the actual ask because there's already some funds available. So I think the difficulty or the challenge is to decide, can it only be one application, or could we submit three? We probably wouldn't, because it would be too much work and we'd want to select one or two. And it is, even though the initial form is very, it seems short, it actually needs a lot of thought to identify what the project is and what the purpose is and how much, what the level of the grant would be to be asked. So that's the dilemma, and I'd love some advice or some guidance on, first of all, can one submit more than one application or submit an initial application?
Yes, thank you for the question, Sarah. That's a great one to raise up here tonight. So a question I have for you is, would your organization be the fiscal sponsor of all three, as well as the project lead for all three? Or would you just be sponsoring, being the fiscal sponsor for all three?
So it's a little bit complicated because by policy, we are not a fiscal sponsor organization, we're a community foundation. And we have pooled funds or fields of interest. So, for example, for this Coalition for Equity and Justice, we're actually the administrative organ, we're the administrator. There are 20 paid up nonprofits that are members of it. There's a steering committee that is not us. So we're very intentional about what our role is, what our limits are, who's leading, but it doesn't mean to say that we're a fiscal sponsor. For the Early Childhood Equity initiative, we are the lead organization. We work with a number of partners that are on the ground that are doing the work. We have a steering committee that advises on a lot of the decisions. Ultimately, it is our board that will make, for example, funding decisions around grants. But the initiative involves a number of partners, a lot of advocacy, not just grant making.
Okay, so the answer to the question is yes, you can submit multiple applications for different projects. Okay, So that's totally up to you. But I think your point about the bandwidth and capacity that you have is really important to keep in mind. So I would encourage you to try to whittle that down. 3 seems like a lot to me to go through this whole process. So I would encourage you to think about what's our best shot. Maybe 2 would be a solid number for you to go for. Okay. So that would be my suggestion around that. I also would encourage you to think about which ones do you think, based on that criteria that I laid out, based on who we're targeting, who we're prioritizing, which would have the greatest likelihood of being successful. Okay, the greatest likelihood of being well received by our committee. I also just want to let people know that we are, we'll get to voting in a moment, but it's very unlikely that we would have multiple projects from the same organization on the ballot, okay? Because that's gonna take away from other people being able to have their projects on the ballot. So you're more than welcome to submit multiple projects. I would just encourage you to think really carefully about if that's worth your time and which ones do you think would have the strongest chance of being successful. Is that
Excellent.
helpful?
Thank you. Yes, very clear. Thank you.
Okay, great. Let's go over to Kristen.
Yes, thank you. I have a very specific question, which is when it talks about connecting your project to the submitted PB ideas, I just wondered, does it make any difference? There's all the individual ones that were submitted from people, and then there's like your summary sheet that has it broken up into categories and kind of 1-sentence descriptions. Does it matter which we're referring to, or is there what should we be working from?
Great question, Kristen. So we went out into community and asked them to share their ideas with us. And so we put that all together on this document. And I just want to share this with everybody in case folks have not had a chance to look at it yet. Let me share this with you. So this is our online PB ideas tool. And so what Kristen was mentioning is that we've gotten a ton of different ideas from community members. There's one on Creciendo Juntos, growing together. There's one around canal leadership for affordable housing, transportation in West County, an Indigenous Healing Center. So people were able to actually geolocate to put where exactly they want their project to go. In this case, they wanted to be right along here in San Anselmo. And this is an Indigenous Healing Center, and it's gotten 33 likes from the community. So a couple of quick notes. Just because a project has gotten likes, that doesn't represent votes, okay? We're not in the voting stage. It's really just an indication of support for that particular idea. To your specific question, Kristen, you can share an idea from either this tool here, where we had all these ideas, or that one page sheet that we shared. We just want to make sure that people are connecting their project in one way or another with some of the ideas that we've gotten from community members. So to be honest, you could also go into the tool if you wanted to and just click share my project idea. And you could write in your project idea, and that would be your connection to your project, right? So it's just a way for us to make sure people are connecting with the ideas, that they're looking at the ideas of community members and drawing some connection to their project. Okay, Kristen, does that address your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great question. We get a lot of questions about what's the connection and relationship between ideas and actual applications. Other folks. Yeah, Trish, jump in.
Thank you so much. 2 questions. One, you said that areas weighted on the healthy places index less than 70 would be preferred. And I did go into that index and enjoy it very much. And I saw ratings for Novato under 70%. So the question is, if outdoor gym equipment were to be project submitted, would I have to define myself by only those Novato zip codes that are below 70 on the Healthy Places Index?
Yeah, good question, Trish. So, you know, you don't have to define your project solely based on those communities. We are giving a higher score for projects that are based in those communities that fall under 70 on the Healthy Places Index. But as I mentioned, you could propose your project for anywhere in Marin County. It can be in Tiburon, it can be in San Anselmo, etc. So anywhere you want to, you can, but we're giving extra priority to communities that are below 70 on the Healthy Places Index.
Okay, and that touches on the second part of my question, which is how are you going to weight these projects? Like say I proposed it in Tiburon and not Novato. How many points more would Novato get? Or is it a point system, or how are you going to do that?
Yeah, great question, Trish. So we have what we call a PB scorecard, an evaluation scorecard that we put together. And that scorecard is really based on the criteria that I shared with you a moment ago. And so I'm going to pull that slide back up for us just so we can all look at it together. Okay. So, you know, we're using kind of the 3 C's that I mentioned, and let me blow this up for everybody. Whoops. So we're using these 3 C's here: completeness, clarity, and content. And then a more detailed breakdown is what you see here. So it's application information, it's project information, project description, project benefits and impacts, the cost and operating budget, and then your additional resources. And so we have in the rule book a breakdown of the general point structure for those items. And so that would really be your best way to know how we're weighting it, okay? But I think that's a really great question, Trish. And so what I'm thinking is next time for our next meeting, what we'll do is we'll definitely have a slide on the score breakdown, more or less, that shows you how where we're giving weight to.
Yes, thank you. I did look at the rule book, but I'm sorry, I apparently missed the weighting where,
okay,
you know, I saw that you prefer certain cities, which you described earlier in this talk. And I saw this screen that you're showing us now, but I'm sorry, I missed a point breakdown.
Okay, so what we can do, and I'm going to stop this share, is we'll go ahead and if it's not there, I believe it's in there, but maybe it's an older version, Trish. And so we'll make sure that that's included in the updated version, and we'll send out new information to all of our applicants or potential applicants, letting them know about the point breakdown. So thank you so much for lifting that up.
Thank you.
These conversations are not just helpful for you, they're helpful for us to know what type of things you want to know more about. Where can we be more clear? So I'm glad you raised that. Let's go to Paula.
Hello, everybody. Thank you. First of all, I think this is a great initiative. I think it's going to definitely give voice to, encourage our people and empower our people to really use their voices. So thank you so much for this. And my question would be, well, here us at SGC, we serve a lot of immigrants from Marin and also San Rafael, but most of our operations are right now on a virtual space. So because this is the best way that we could find out to serve more people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I don't know why I got muted. So what was he saying? Okay, so we serve a lot of clients and immigrant clients from Marin and also San Rafael. So since we are discussing a little bit about geographic location, we have a lot of let's say digital and virtual projects that we want to put up for this opportunity. So I was wondering if that would be a problem in terms of geographical location, or how do you recommend we locate the projects in our case? for example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great question there, Paula. So it sounds like you're basically you're a virtual organization right now. But I wonder if there are specific communities where you see a lot of people accessing your services. So is it in, say, the Canal, for example? Can you draw some connection to an actual physical geography, a physical place? If not, it would basically mean that you're kind of county-wide. Your community members, your people who get your services are coming from all over the county. So in that case, you would be county-wide. But I would encourage you to think about, where are our constituents coming from? Are they coming from a particular community that's under 70? That's kind of one of our target communities, for example. If not, then you would likely be county-wide.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. Yes, because we have a lot of sorry, I don't know if
No, go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, we have a lot of immigrant clients who come from rural communities. So we are also taking into account that some of them have trouble understanding virtual spaces and with language issues and barriers, because they most of them are for example, Guatemala. So more or less, it's like our biggest challenge right now, that we have a lot of immigrant clients who are indigenous people from those areas. So they are definitely in that range. So I think, yeah, I thank you so much for that answer. I think we're going to be able to place a good geographic location for that, even if we are remote.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for that, Paula. And I have a comment in the chat here that's just to me, but I want to address it before we go to Sarah. And the question here is, do we make an appointment with the grant writers, or will they be holding a general meeting? So the first thing you need to do if you do want to tap into our grant writing team is complete that intake form. And Manny put it in the chat for us all to see. It's also on our website that I just showed you. So that's the first thing you need to do if you need grant writing assistance, if you want grant writing assistance. Okay, and from there, we'll direct you to the appropriate grant writer. The second part of the question that I see here is, if you have a lot of experience grant writing, should you do your best to write the application and then bring it to the grant writers to review and provide assistance? Really good question. Okay, so we are the Office of Equity. Our goal with this process is for it to be equity centered, and for us to center the voices of people who are marginalized, who are historically disenfranchised. And so we really want to make sure that we are inviting our grant writers to support people who have very little experience with the grant writing process. Okay, so if you've completed 10 or more, and you'll see this as a question on that intake form, if you have a ton of experience, you've completed 10 or more applications, you've been successful in receiving grants, then maybe you should think about if you really need that support. Okay, they're not going to be copywriting, they're not going to be doing a tremendous amount of editing to any applications. It's more about answering questions, giving you the appropriate feedback you need to create a really clear and compelling application. I don't want to turn you away. However, if you feel like that could be something that you could use, feel free to reach out, and we'll put you in touch with them. But also keep in mind that we have limited resources for the grant writers, and so if you don't really need it, if you feel like you've got a lot of experience, then go ahead and try to do it on your own. Our team can help answer questions, but just keep that in mind, okay? But it's open to everyone. However, use your judgment in terms of if you really feel like you need some grant writing support or not. So let's go to Sarah. And you're on mute there, Sarah.
I think I'm sort of not wrestling with, but part of our process is to make sure that any that the project is particularly when there are partners, well, there will be partners, that it's a collaborative process, So my first question is, even if we're doing a lot of work to help formulate the request, there still has to be a process for agreement of what the project is, what it's going to try and accomplish, how the money will be spent, and that can take time. And so I'm moving to the sort of second part. If something is selected for a more detailed proposal, do you have in your fuller grant application proposal, do you just have like one lead, or can you have 2 or 3 leads? And then in the budget, can you show like this organization is going to lead on this and will, receive this amount of the budget or be responsible? How do you actually invite information about a collaborative effort?
I love this question, Sarah. Thanks so much for it, because one of the other criteria that we're using is partnership. It's collaboration. We don't want people fighting over these limited dollars. Instead, we're encouraging people to link up, to lock arms with another organization and make the project happen together. So I love the fact that you're thinking through, well, I'm already partnering with a lot of folks to make this happen. That's going to be really great and beneficial, I think, to the scoring of the application for you. That being said, yes, we absolutely do have room and much space and line items for you to indicate who your partners are, right? By name, their contact information. On the budget, you can really clearly lay out what is their portion of the budget. We're going to want to see that, right? So we don't want, for example, for there not to be equity in who's doing a lot of the work, but only getting 5% of the budget, right? So that's something that we're really looking closely at. I do just want to take us again to our website. So I just want to make sure people get super familiar with this. And so if you go to this kind of what you need to know section here, if you click on the stage 2 application here, so we didn't put the online application up because we didn't want people to think they could just go straight to stage 2. So you got to do stage 1, and then we send you a link and a code to you to stage 2. But we also didn't want you to fly blind. Okay, so Sarah, your questions are so right on, because all you would want to do is just download the Word version and you could see what our application is all about. Okay, so all the questions are in the Word version here. So you could just simply download it and just take a look, and you'll see there's plenty of space for you to indicate who you're partnering with, what their roles are, what percentage of the budget would they be allocated, etc. And then if you go down here a little further, there's that budget template. And that'll again be where you would indicate who's getting what portion of the budget. The other thing I want to draw your attention to here is there's a partnership letter template, okay? Because we really have found that, these ideas are, there can be challenging to bring to life, and partnerships can fall apart, okay? And that's just the way it goes sometimes. But we want for you to do your best to really lock in who your partners are, and for everyone to agree, this is the project that we're proposing on, this is my role in it, and I'm signing that I'm committed to making this happen. So you would have to submit this partnership letter as well, with your signatures of all your partners. So it's just our way of making sure that those partnerships are as firm as they can be. And it's not to say that things won't change. We know that, things change, but at this stage, it's your best thinking about who you'll be working with.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. And I can I ask a follow-up question?
Of course.
Thank you. So the process of developing, the working together collaboratively and in partnership is incredibly rewarding and quite demanding, and often more expensive, and often means a longer time is needed, because there has to be a process that includes everyone. We absolutely would have a consultative process, not just consultative, but actually a partner working, working through this to submit the form and then the proposal. And it's perfectly possible that we might not meet the deadline because we have to respect certain processes and reach certain agreements. So my question is there going to be a next year, or is there going to be another round? Or because I realize you set these deadlines for very specific reasons. But if we miss it, do we miss it permanently? I'm not planning to miss it, but there's some things beyond our control. Is there like is there a second opportunity?
Great question. Great question. Well, first, I would encourage you to get it in by the deadline, if at all possible. And again, we're here to support you on that to the extent we can, but that would be great. We want to, and I just also want to be really transparent with you all and say that so far we've gotten about 20 stage 1 applications. Lori is on the call here today. She's one of our stage 1 applicants already. So we want to get a lot more, right? Because there's then a stage 2 that people have to complete. And so I just want to let you know that right now the chances are pretty good, you know, that you would maybe get on the ballot because we've only gotten 20. Okay. So I encourage you to go ahead and get your stuff in, okay, and do it to the best of your ability. So that's one. But should you, for whatever reason, not be able to meet the deadline, you know, we have not fully confirmed what the amount would be for another PB cycle, when that would take place. Because as I mentioned, this is our first time doing this in Marin County. And what we really want to do is make sure that we support the people who do get the grants to be successful. So we're going to spend a lot of our time on implementation support, because we want these projects to come to life. Okay, so that's going to be our focus, not jumping right back into another PB cycle, because that's not what our purpose is. So I just want to be really clear in saying that. However, we do envision doing another cycle, right? But I just can't tell you right now when that would be, because we really want to focus in on doing this one cycle really strongly to the best we can.
Okay, that's really helpful. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So let me look in the chat. I want to make sure that we got this. And yeah, Manny's corrected me. We got 24 stage 1s. All right, they're coming in now, they're coming in hot and heavy now. So yeah, thank you for that,
Really
Manny.
more competition now.
More competition, yeah.
Well,
So we
in this last 2 minutes.
exactly. And we do anticipate, you know, we know that some people don't submit until the day before, right? So we anticipate a mad dash on May 9th, on May 10th, getting a ton, right? The same is true for May 31st for the stage 2 application. So earlier is better, but you know, we hope that we'll get more, is the long and short of it. So, all right, well, I'm going to keep, oh, go ahead, Lori. Yeah.
Find out when we're going to go on the ballot. So we go into stage 2, and then when do we find out if we're going to make it to the ballot?
Great question. Great question. So, you know, we will conclude the stage 2 application period on May 31st. And then we need about a month to 2 to really evaluate those applications, right? To make sure that they're being vetted in a way that's consistent with our criteria, et cetera. And then we also, in the meantime, will be getting the voting platform together. So we'll be voting online and in person. So it's going to take a lot for us to get those logistics down. So we anticipate letting people know likely in July or August. Okay, so it'll be a little bit of time. We need a little breathing room, to be honest with you, to make sure we're doing it right. But we'll keep you informed all the while. Okay, that's going to be something that we're really committed to. It's just keeping people aware of where we are in our process. So great question, Lori. Go ahead. You got another one?
Yeah. Do you think we should start to rally up voters once we get to stage 2, just in case we're on the ballot? Like, is this a good time to just like push the social media and start to rally up your voters?
Good question. I would suggest that, you know, you probably hold off on that until we get back to you as to whether or not you make it on the ballot. Because I wouldn't want that work to be in vain. But we'll let you know as soon as we are aware of whether or not you made it on the ballot. Okay. And I also just want to mention, everybody, there are no losers in PB. Okay. So even if you don't make it on the ballot, we're sharing these ideas, we're sharing these projects, these proposals with our departments. Okay. So I heard Trish talk about a park equipment project idea that she has. So we would share that with our parks department, for example, so that they can know, hey, this is important to the community. We've crowdsourced these ideas. There's really strong support for these ideas. What can you all do to provide funding or technical assistance or some support to bring this to life? So we really hope that we know that everybody can't be funded through PB through this cycle, but we also want you to know that that doesn't mean that your idea dies on the vine, okay? It doesn't wither on the vine. So just keep that in mind too.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Trish. All right, let's see here. I'm going to go ahead and move us into the next and kind of final phase of our presentation for you tonight and talk about the voting. You know, people love to hear about that. So let's get there. All righty. So voting, everyone. We are that would be kind of the third phase of our process. And you might be wondering, well, who can vote? And it's really anyone who lives, who works, owns a business, or attends school in Marin County. And so we wanted to make sure that, you know, lots of people could participate, that we were really inclusive in who could be a part of our PB process. And so we wanted to open it up to youth, to students, to people who are undocumented, for example. So we're not asking for citizenship or any type of documentation status. So it's really anyone in Marin County who's a community member here can vote. And we'll be out in person, right? So we'll have events where people can come and vote. So there'll be certain locations that we go to. They likely would be in our target communities. So we might have, say, 2 days where we're in Marin City, and we'll be at the Marin City Senior Center, for example, and say, for example, the Sausalito Marin School District, right? And people could come and vote in person that way. And then we'll also be online, and people can submit their votes online, just like you did for the ideas, okay? And we are working on having a way to verify, to make sure that people aren't double dipping, they're not voting twice. So we really want this to be rigorous to the extent that we can, and make sure that people are following the rules of it. Okay, so that's a little bit about the voting process. So hypothetically, everyone, let's say we get 100 applications. Right? We get 100 applications from people, and that would be a great number, frankly. We would probably whittle that down to about 20, because we don't want to have 100 applications on the ballot. That's too much for people to have to decide about. And so we would try to whittle that down using our criteria that I showed you a moment ago. And those would be the 20 that get on the ballot. So, you know, a question that comes up a lot is, well, how are you going to decide what gets on the ballot? Is it what factors? And so for us, you know, one factor is geography. We want to make sure that we have at least one project, if not two, from each of our target communities. Okay, so that's really important, is that the geography be diverse. We also want to have projects that range in terms of amount. So if you notice in the application, we had 10,000 to about 24,000 as one tier. Then we had 25,000 to about 74,000 for another tier. Then we had 75,000 to 149,000 for another tier. And the final tier is 150,000 to 250,000. So we don't want to have all projects on there that are 250,000, because that really doesn't take into account the great projects that just need, you know, $10,000 to get their project off the ground. So we're looking at it in terms of the number, you know, the amount that you're requesting. We're also looking at it in terms of, the category. And so, as you notice, we had several categories in our application. It was parks and recreation was one, transportation and public transit was another, arts and culture was a project or a category. So we'll look at it across a variety of factors to make sure that, you know, we're hearing from a lot of different people, and that the ballot's diverse in many ways. Okay. So from there, everybody, we will fund whichever projects the community members decide on. So if it's your project, Sarah, for example, we would then allocate you the money, okay? And we put you in our system through our contracting system, and we would set up a payment schedule for you to receive the funds. And then the next item is actually doing the work. And this is where I think the fun really begins for PB, is that we want to make sure that we're funding projects that people are going to implement. We want to see results, okay? So this is something that's really important to us. And so this is a big factor when we're doing our evaluation. And really, we're looking for projects that can be implemented within, 2 years of time. Okay, so that's something for you to keep in mind. If you feel like your project will take 20 years to get off the ground, this may not be the grant cycle for you. This may not be the process for you to get money. Okay, we were looking for some faster results. And so that's really important to our process. And yeah, we want community members to feel like ultimately this was a process that improved their community, where people felt connected, they felt that they were heard, they were seen, and that they did something that made a difference in their neighborhood. So with that, everybody, I'm going to just pause again and see if there are any questions before we wrap it up tonight. You all are giving some great questions tonight. Amaranta, I want to make sure we're hearing from you too. I don't know if you're still there with us. Do you have any questions from the Parent Voices organization?
No, most of the questions that I have, they already asked them. So pretty sure we're on the same page, and I will follow up. Thank you so much.
Okay, great. Sarah, I see you came off mute. Did you have another question or
No,
comment?
just to say thank you so much. This is really helpful, and I really appreciate all of your the information and the work that you're doing.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that feedback. We all do. It means a lot to us. We're very committed to this. Yeah, so we're going to wrap it up. Oh, thank you. Oh, go ahead, Lori. I'm sorry.
I've seen you 3 times present this now, and I've learned something different every time. At first 5, we're in policy in here, and it's not repetitive. I'm still learning. So thank you. You're a great presenter.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yeah, we want to keep it fresh for you. Let's go to Paula. Oh, took the hand down. Paula, you got a question or no?
Yes, thank you. Mine is just a very simple question. I think you mentioned at the beginning that this is going to be recorded, and also that the following meetings are going to cover kind of the same thing, because I'd really like to invite our partnerships director to this. So I know that there's one tomorrow, and I think another 2 next week. So
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Are those the same? Like the
Great
same
question.
covered information?
Yeah, great question. And let me bring this this slide up here, and I think we'll bring it on home here. So we are this is our first one. So you all, thank you so much for being here tonight. We have another 3. One is tomorrow, the 27th, from 12 to 1:30. So we wanted to mix up the times. So kind of at the lunch hour. And then we'll have another one on Wednesday, May 3rd from 6 to 8. And then another one on Thursday, May 4th from 1 to 2:30. And your question, Paula, is a great one. And yes, we will be saying the same thing. So the topics will be the same. I think the only difference is the people who come and who ask questions. So we'll respond to the questions that we get, but otherwise we're going to cover the same material. Okay. And we will be placing the recordings on our website. So people who couldn't make it can check them out when they have time. Okay. And we also will be hosting more workshops as we get closer to our deadlines. So I anticipate in like mid-May, we'll have a bunch more so people can get really confident before submitting the stage 2 application.
I guess I have.
Oh, sorry. Just wanted to
I'm
say.
sorry. I guess I have one more question, which is, how will you make sure that the voters our owners of businesses in Marin, our students in Marin, you know, our residents in Marin and so forth?
Yeah, great question. So we will have a verification form that's included with the voting process. And so we're asking people to really clearly specify their address, their business address, and we'll be working to verify that with our registrar, with our voting registrar as well. So we're doing kind of a dual authentication, if that makes sense to you, a dual authentication of whether or not people are actually community members here in Marin County. So we're putting some mechanisms in place to really make sure that people are community members of Marin County.
Thank
Yeah, great question. So, all right, everybody, I'm going to bring us on home here. So just a reminder, folks, we have stage 1. It's available now. Please do complete it if you haven't. Super brief. Deadline is May 10th. Okay, so it's coming up. We also have a stage 2, which is more detailed, as we mentioned. That deadline is May 31st. If you would like to have our grant writers support you in completing or answering any questions for your application, by all means, just complete that brief intake form and we will route you to the appropriate grant writer. If you have other questions, things that may come up for you tonight, you may be laying in bed, you think, well, darn, I didn't think to ask that question. Always feel free to reach out to equity@marincounty.org and our team will get back to you as quickly as we can. So again, I just want to say thank you all so much for being here with us tonight. It's our pleasure. This is really exciting for us. So I appreciate you being here and all the best. Okay, so reach out and have a great rest of your evening. Thank you so much. Take care.